4th and 8. We're on our own 39-yard line. What we're going to do? Going to send for the Punt Team. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Punt Team, the Racing Post NFL show where we give you our top bets, picks, and predictions for the upcoming Sunday's NFL slate. I'm Andrew Wilshert, and I'm joined by Luke Lindholm. Luke, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling good after another Patriots win, but not feeling so good after my picks last week, going 2-3 on the main picks for those 5 games. But I mean, that Thursday night football, starting with that game, the Raiders Broncos, can't believe I stayed up and watched the whole thing. It felt
Oh,
like
man.
both teams were just trying to lose the game when it came to that. I mean, I'm sure you saw the highlights, but you slept through that one, and you
Oh,
definitely
absolutely.
worth it.
Yeah. I did. I didn't stay up for that one, and if I had, it definitely would have put me to sleep. But yeah, it was three pretty underwhelming primetime games. Between that and then
Mhm.
the Packers Eagles game as well, and then Sunday Night Football. All three games were pretty low scoring and sleepy. So fingers crossed we get a better slate for this coming week's lineup. But I mean, that said, we did have a fantastic game in Berlin as the Colts
Yeah.
beat the Falcons in overtime. What were your thoughts there?
I mean, Jonathan Taylor, wow. We talked about it last week. His MVP odds, I mean, they've skyrocketed over the last few days, and especially after that performance. I mean, was a little mad that went into overtime because it damaged my Daniel Jones under passing yards prop as he went over there in overtime. But JT, I mean, I think it's too late to be sprinkling him on MVP now, given the historical run that quarterbacks have with the award. But if you got him before that Berlin game, you're sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, and I mean, to your credit, you did flag up JT, as you said, as a potential MVP contender. I think he was around 16-1 last week. So
Mhm.
hopefully some of our viewers were able to get on that. But it feels like every week there's a major shakeup in both the Super Bowl and the MVP market. I mean, Drake May is now the favorite to
Yeah.
be MVP at 11-4. I mean, I have my own views on that, but as a Patriots fan, you're watching May week in and week out. Does he deserve to be the favorite at 11-4?
It's kind of funny that he shot up this past week because I honestly thought it wasn't his best performance in Tampa Bay.
It
But
wasn't. He completed 50% of his passes.
yeah,
Crazy.
that's been the first time we've been talking about a low completion percentage for him. So it is interesting, but I think this MVP race is going to be tight and close till the end. I mean, we have 6 players right now that are shorter than 10-1 to win the award. I still lean Matthew Stafford when everything's said and done. I think the way he's throwing the ball for the Rams and the way the Rams are playing in general on offense, they look unstoppable right now. I will flag up one more for our viewers if they want a little juicier MVP. I don't think Jared Goff is getting enough respect right now, sitting at 18-1. He's been nearly perfect for this Lions team after that opening loss to Green Bay, and his odds just don't match up with me. I mean, he's trailing Mahomes and Stafford a little bit when it comes to passing yards and touchdowns, but he's been nearly perfect for this Lions team. And if you see them win this week in Philadelphia and potentially secure the number 1 seed in the NFC, I think Goff will be right in the mix at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really thrilling race. And to your credit, I really have Matt Stafford circled now at 3-1. Again, the
Yeah,
price has gone a little bit there, but man, he has been out of this world. I was so
insane.
impressed with him against the 49ers. Every week this season, he has just been slicing and dicing teams. It's a real sight to see. Jonathan Taylor, he's the real flavor of the month at the moment, but he really needs to keep having games where he's over 100 rushing yards at least, and he probably
Mhm.
needs another game like he had against the Falcons, probably around week 15, week 16 to really try and rubber stamp that. But if we're
Yeah.
being honest, I think he has to do a lot more than the quarterbacks just because of his position. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a real tight open race. I still really like my Lamar Jackson pick, and if the Ravens just keep on winning games, they can win this week and go back to 500. And Lamar, I don't think has to be perfect, but he's in such a wide open race. I think he can really reinsert himself back into the conversation. He's still available at around 16-1, I think. So I wouldn't put anyone off of that. But shifting gears to the Super Bowl market, it's been all change again. The Chiefs somehow are 11-2 Super Bowl favorites, despite not even being in the playoffs right now, not even leading their division, which is absolutely crazy. The Bills were in favoritism contention after beating the Chiefs last week, but then they got blown out by the Dolphins. So what's going on with Buffalo?
Insane. I mean, I really think that rushing defense is a problem. We saw Tua didn't even play that good in that game, but Devin Achane, he just ran wild on that Bills defense. And when it comes to the playoffs, I mean, your run defense makes or breaks teams. If you can wear a team down rushing the ball, it just frees up the play action, frees up the pass. And I think Buffalo's in trouble. They're sitting right behind the Patriots. They obviously still have to go to Foxborough and play them, but they're also, that would just be a tie. The tiebreaker would be even if they win that game in New England. And we've talked about the Patriots' schedule. They're looking at 14-3, 13-4 right in the face. So Buffalo has an uphill battle, and then they'd likely be going on the road in that playoff game. I can't find any value with them, and I still don't understand the disrespect for my Patriots sitting on the outside. I mean, I sprinkled on them a few weeks ago when they were still 28, 30-1, and I really like the way they're playing. We'll see when they come to the playoffs, everything like that. It's obviously a young team with Drake May at the helm, but I can't deny the Rams either. I think the Rams, we talked about Stafford, the way he's playing, they look like the team to beat in the NFC to me.
Yeah, I mean, I am quite high on the Rams, but I think the value for them now is gone. And it's interesting that you say that they're the team to beat in the NFC. I actually think there's a team better than them in the NFC West, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. Oh my word. How amazing is this Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith and Jigba connection? I mean, Sam Darnold with the Seahawks is having an almost generational year in the passing game. The Seahawks are averaging 9.8 passing yards per attempt this season. They are averaging nearly a first down per pass attempt this season. It is outrageous what the Seahawks were doing, and we saw them absolutely decimate the Cardinals in that later window last Sunday. And I'm just so impressed by Seattle. They have a fantastic running game now in the two-headed monster of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They've got Cooper Kupp as well in the receiving game. I'm just so impressed by what the Seahawks are bringing to the table right now. And you know, a lot of people were saying that Sam Darnold was a fluke on the Vikings last year, but no, Sam Darnold is one of the league's best quarterbacks, and we didn't touch on him in the MVP conversation, but I think really his name should be mentioned. I don't think he'll win it, but what he's doing with this Seahawks franchise now, after what he did with the Vikings last year, this guy has just come on leaps and bounds, and I absolutely love Seattle.
Yeah, the problem, I mean, I love what Seattle's doing too, especially their defense. And I mean, the way they've played, especially compared to last year, Darnold has just brought that team to another level. Maybe it's the college football, Penn State, James Franklin, little PTSD in me, but I just can't get behind the Seattle team until I see Sam Darnold win a playoff game. I mean, we saw him play phenomenally last year for Minnesota, but when it came to that high pressure situation in Week 18 against Detroit, he folded. First round of the playoffs, he folded. So I do like what Seattle's doing, especially with their run game and their defense, but I just can't get behind Darnold when it comes to playoff time right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always those intangibles that come into play. I think that's why the Patriots are the odds they are to win the Super Bowl, because we don't know how Drake May is going to react in a playoff environment. And even it's why the Bills and Ravens have under-delivered year after year, because Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson don't have great records in the playoffs, whereas Patrick Mahomes does. And that's why the Chiefs, despite not being in the playoffs right now, are the Super Bowl favorites, because they have Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes knows how to win playoff games.
100%. And that's why I do respect Stafford a bit in the NFC. And I mean, we'll get into the Eagles a little bit later in the show. That offense doesn't look good, but Jalen Hurts has still won a Super Bowl, and the defense is starting to play. So you have to think about those intangibles come playoff time.
And now diving into our first Sunday game of the week, and it actually emanates from the Bernabeu in Madrid. It's Spain's first ever NFL game, and Luke, the schedulers haven't been the kindest. We've got the 3-7 Commanders taking on the 3-7 Dolphins. What are your thoughts here?
Now, I know Madrid fans are probably used to seeing quality on the pitch, but they probably won't see that this Sunday. I know Commanders a little bit of a downer not having Jaden Daniels out there. When it comes to it, I'm rolling with the Dolphins -2.5. They're obviously coming off that big win against Buffalo, so this might feel like a letdown spot to some people, but Washington has just been a mess lately. They're 0-5 straight up and against the spread in their last 5 games, with 4 of those losses coming by more than 20 points. That is just insane to me. And the real problem, I mean, it hasn't even been the quarterback. It's been the defense. This week, they'll have no Marshawn Lattimore, no Trey Amos, Durant Armstrong's done for the year, and now Deron Payne's suspended after punching Amon-Ra St. Brown last week. I mean, they're in shambles on defense. They only have 4 sacks over the past month and rank dead last in defensive dropback EPA. So that's bad news when you're facing a Tua in this Miami offense that 2 of the last 3 weeks, they've looked really good. I mean, I know Baltimore shut them down in prime time 2 weeks ago, but between Buffalo and then Atlanta, I'm actually think this Dolphins team can have a late season push. And the last little bit is Marcus Mariota. I know it hasn't been his fault really, but he hasn't won as an underdog in his last 7 starts. So I really can't see the Commanders getting a win in this one. If you look at historical trends, favorites in international games are also 40-14 straight up and 34-21 against the spread. So Washington really feels like it's spiraling right now. If I were them, I'd keep Jaden on the bench. Don't force him back or anything like that. Get a good draft pick come next season. And Tua, I think he's playing for his job right now, especially Mike McDaniels as a head coach is playing for his job. He survived the firing. I think the Dolphins win, cover by 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win by more than a touchdown in Madrid.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. I think Miami's surging a bit, and I always felt like Miami was a bit better than what the results were suggesting. So, and I do quite like Mike McDaniel. I know he gets a lot of heat, but I quite like him and I like Tua. So I am pleased that they are having a bit of success. I know it's weird for me to say that as a Jets fan. They're an AFC East rival, but I do think there's something likable out them, and I agree that I think the Dolphins will get it done. However, my best bet for this game is actually taking the under on Tua Tagovailoa's passing yards. So under 239.5 passing yards for Tua at 10-11. And a lot of that stems from how Jekyll and Hyde this Dolphins offense has been. You know, in their last 5, they've scored 27, then 6, then 34, then 6, then 30. So at times you really don't know what you're getting with this Miami team. And I know that it seems like a favorable spot given that the Commanders have allowed by far the most passing yards per attempt in the NFL. They've allowed 8.9. The next worst team is 8.2. And they've also allowed the most passing yards in the NFL. However, Dan Quinn is going to be taking over defensive play calling responsibilities for this game. So I do expect there to be a bit of an improvement on that in that department. But more than anything, Tua hasn't really lit it up at all this season. He's gone over this number just twice in his last 8 games, and he doesn't need to light it up to be impactful on the field. You know, he had a 4-touchdown game against the Falcons not too long ago when they beat Atlanta, and he actually only had 205 passing yards in that game. Last week when Miami stuffed the Bills, he only had 173 passing yards. In fact, the interesting thing is, the 2 times that Tua did go over this number in the last 8 games were actually Miami defeats. So if Miami does get out to a solid lead, then they'll be more than happy handing it off to Devon Achane, I expect, especially after what we saw Achane do last week. So I think for the over to cash, you sort of need the Commanders to come out with a bit of juice. And I really don't see that. I think the Dolphins should be able to win this one. And then that should therefore lead to Tagovailoa going under 239.5 passing yards. So that's my best bet. But honestly, if you're in the business of a bet builder, I think Miami to win and Tua going under this number could be a nice little contrarian play to get you a nice little payout. And that Madrid game leads us into the 6 p.m. window where we're focusing in on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Buffalo Bills, 2 teams that suffered tough defeats last week. The Bucs falling to the Patriots and the Bills being bested by the Dolphins. Luke, what are your thoughts here?
Now, they both lost last week, but you have to feel that Buffalo is feeling the pressure a bit more with the way the Patriots are playing. I mean, that NFC South, I know the Saints beat the Panthers last week and gained a game, but I can't see them making a push, and the Falcons just can't buy a win. So I do lean Buffalo minus 5.5 in this one at 10-11. And the main reason is that Josh Allen is one of the best bounce back quarterbacks in football. In his 9 starts following a double-digit loss, the Bills are 6-3 straight up and against the spread in their next game, covering those games by an average of 11.4 points per game. We already saw that earlier this season when they went down and crushed Carolina 49 after a tough loss. So I do think they will bounce back in this one. And the other bit is that they're coming off a game with 0 sacks against the Miami Dolphins, which is just insane to me. But since 2021, they're 6-1 straight up after a game with 0 sacks, and they've won the following game by an average of 14.3 points per game. Now, I do think Tampa will show some fight in this one, but they are still just so banged up. I expect Chris Godwin to miss this game again. We'll see if if running back Bucky Irvin can play this week. His status is up in the air. Obviously, he was expected back against the Patriots, but then didn't make the cut. But without these playmakers, it's just hard to see. I know Baker's been hitting Tez Johnson, and that connection looks good. But the Bills offense, I think, will just outpace them. And the final bit is just Todd Bowles. He's really struggled in this spot. He's just 5-24 straight up as an underdog against teams with a double-digit preseason win total, and that includes 2-12 on the road. So I definitely think if you want to use Buffalo in a money line parlay or a teaser down to plus a half, great option. But I'll be taking the Bills minus 5.5 to cover the number.
And to be honest, I'm right there with you. I'm also going Bills minus 5.5 in this situation, and a lot of it echoes what you've said already. You know, the Bills love following up a humiliating defeat by humiliating someone else. We saw it when they crushed the when they crushed the Panthers 49, and you know this is a team that then followed that up by beating the Chiefs by 7. So the talent is still there for Buffalo, and most importantly for them, they're playing at home where they are currently 4-1. The Bills Mafia, you know, will be out in force cheering home their team, and because they're currently trying to chase down the Patriots. I think that and let's be honest, we are recording this before the Patriots play the Jets on Thursday Night Football. You can get our picks for that game in the YouTube Shorts section of the Racing Post page, but the Patriots are probably going to win that game, so the Bills are going to be laser focused on coming in here and beating up on the Bucs, get another win in the column against a decent team to really try and put other teams on notice. But a lot of what Buffalo has matches up well against the Buccaneers as well. You know, the Bills have the 4th most passing yards per attempt in the NFL, while the Bucs are allowing the 8th most passing yards per attempt. The Bills also have the 3rd most yards per carry, so they can beat you in plenty of different ways. And the thing with the Bucs, you know how much I love this Buccaneers team and how high I've been on Baker, but they have been disappointing recently. You know, they're only 3-3 in their last 6 games, and in fact, only 2 of their 6 wins this season have been by more than 3 points. So they have actually underwhelmed a fair bit over the course of this season. So getting the Bills minus 5.5 at home feels like a great bounce back spot for Buffalo and Josh Allen in this one. And moving on to the 9:25 game, and we have a blockbuster battle in the AFC West here as the Kansas City Chiefs are taking on the Denver Broncos. The Broncos with a huge opportunity to gain further daylight between them and the Chiefs in the division, while KC's desperately trying to track them down and get back into proper playoff contention. Luke, what are you expecting in this one?
So as a Chiefs AFC West winner ticket holder, I'll be pulling for Kansas City. I mean, it hurts me to say that as a Patriots fan. But Patrick Mahomes, he's almost automatic when he faces an AFC West rival with extra prep time. Obviously, Chiefs coming off a bye, and when they have extra rest, they've been 11-1 straight up in these games. But this matchup really has all the signs of a defensive slugfest. As bad as the Broncos looked on Thursday Night Football against the Raiders, the defense has been elite. They have 40-plus sacks, and they've held opponents under 30% conversions on 3rd downs. Since 1990, only the 2000 Buccaneers are the other team that have posted these numbers, and now the Broncos are coming in. So the other thing to look at is the Broncos have also trailed in every game this year, yet they're still sitting pretty at the top of the AFC West. So I would think that Kansas City can take an early lead in this one, and I might be sprinkling on the Broncos live if they get plus 7.5 or above that touchdown number. And the way I'm actually going to go is I'm taking the under 44.5. So Bo Nix, he has been an under machine, actually. Since the calendar flipped to 2025, the Broncos are 9-3 to the under in the last 12 starts. And also, the total has gone under in 4 of Denver's last 5 meetings against Kansas City. And in their last 10 meetings, they've combined for an average of 42 points, which is just under this number here. Meanwhile, the Chiefs' offense has been getting talked about, but their defense really should get more recognition. They rank top 6 in yards allowed and top 4 in points allowed, and they're fresh off a bye. So they've been scheming for this Bo Nix team. I bet they're licking their chops after seeing what they did against that Raiders defense on Thursday Night Football. And the other final bit is that the Denver red zone offense has just been terrible lately. They've turned just 1 red zone trip or fewer into a touchdown in consecutive games. So Sean Payton really has to figure that out. Bo Nix has to play at a higher level, but I just can't see it happening in this one. And while I do lean Kansas City to win, I think 4 is just a little too much for me to feel comfortable with. So I'll take the under in this one.
Yeah, I think the under is a very good bet for this one. Now, the Broncos are playing, so naturally you would assume that I am going to be going against them. And I am still against the Broncos. I think they are such a fraudulent 8-2 team, but That being said, I'm going to put things to one side, and I'm actually going to target a player prop in this one, and I'm going with Kareem Hunt over 41.5 rushing yards at 10 to 11. So I'll preface this one by highlighting that the Broncos have actually allowed the fewest yards per carry in the NFL this season, just 3.6, but this number feels too low for me, and it actually looks like a decent spot for Hunt. Firstly, Isaiah Pacheco is expected to miss this game. Andy Reid has alluded to this. We're filming this on a Wednesday, so just take that into consideration. I'm happy betting this number at 41.5 right now. It could tick up, it could tick down, but just be aware of that before diving in. But ultimately, Hunt has been a very solid back for the Chiefs in recent weeks. He just had 11 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown against the Bills, and he's actually posted at least 40 rushing yards in 3 of his last 5 games, while averaging 4.4 yards per carry in 4 of those 5. So essentially, if he can replicate that, then he should be able to reach this number in 9 to 10 carries. So even if Pacheco does suit up, then I still think Hunt has a decent chance of going over this line. But what also needs to be factored in is that the Chiefs are 4-point favourites. So if they can lead from the front, then that should result in more opportunities for Hunt. When they were playing the Bills a couple of weeks ago, they were always playing from behind. But Hunt, to his credit, did still manage to get to 49 rushing yards. So it isn't a massive requirement. But if they can lead from the front, then I think that will be a mega bonus for Kareem Hunt. All things considered, I think this line's a bit too low for my liking. If the Chiefs can get out to a solid lead, then I think they'll lean on Hunt, and I think he should be able to go over 41.5 rushing yards. And rounding off the NFL Week 11 Sunday slate, we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in what could be an NFC Championship preview matchup. Both teams locking horns at Lincoln Financial Field. We've got the Eagles at 7-2 now, after getting past the Packers on Monday Night Football, while the Lions come in at 6-3. Luke, even though the Lions have a worse record, I actually think Detroit has been more impressive so far this season. But what's your view?
Yeah, I do feel that way as well. And I was honestly, the line opened up as the Eagles -1.5, and I was surprised to see it tick up to 2.5. I feel like the public will be on Detroit in this one. I mean, Dan Campbell has been money in prime time. He's 10 and straight up when favored, all with Jared Goff at quarterback. So that's interesting to see how this line moves. But the catch for me, and I think I talked about this earlier this season, but Goff, when it comes to playing up in prime time as an underdog, is just 4-9, especially when he's playing outdoors in a tough spot like Philadelphia. I mean, the Lions have already seen what Nick Sirianni's offense can do. They're 0-2 against the Eagles under Campbell, and they've given up 82 total points in those games. I know the way the Eagles offense looked this past week, you might not think that they'll put up 30-plus points in this one, and I don't think they'll need to, honestly, because the way that Philly's defense has looked, especially last week, going into Green Bay and stifling that Packers offense, I think they're going to come out and really cause issues for this Lions offense that really looks unstoppable right now. But they have needed shootouts to win on the road. Detroit has scored 38, 37, and 44 in their 3 away victories, but Philadelphia simply doesn't allow that. They've held opponents to 24 points or fewer in 6 of 9 games, and they've only once have they allowed more than 24 points at home this season. Now, that's going to be a key number for me because Jalen Hurts, as a starter, is 43-8 when his defense keeps teams under 24 points, which includes an 18-4 mark at home. So when everything's said and done, I thought this would be contrarian. I was surprised to see it tick up to 2.5, but I'm taking Philly -2.5. I mean, I do think it'll be a close game. I like getting them under a field goal. If you told me you were teasing the Lions up to +8.5, I wouldn't hate that either. Either way, I think it's going to be less than a touchdown, but when everything's said and done, I'm going to put my money on this Philly defense, and I think the offense will look better in this spot. I don't see how they could look worse.
That's an interesting take, yeah. And to be fair, I do take on board everything that you've said. And like you say, a big key to this game will be the Eagles' offense having to bounce back and really starting to show something at this point in the season. But all things considered, I'm actually going with the Lions +2.5 at 10-11. Like you, I was very surprised to see it tick up from 1.5 to 2.5. I do think it'll be an incredibly close game that a field goal probably will decide it, but I've got to roll with Detroit in this spot, getting 2.5 points. You know, the issues with the Eagles offense, AJ Brown, what the hell's going on there? There's been so much talk around his unhappiness and the problems there. And also Saquon Barkley's gone over 60 rushing yards only once in his last 7 games. Like, his drop off has been amazing this past season. And I know that a lot of that is probably to do with the Eagles' offensive line departures and things like that, but it's still been a massive drop-off. And when I compare both offenses, I've got a lot more faith in Detroit's than I do Philadelphia's. And Detroit knows how to put points on the board. So I have to roll with Detroit in this one. And, a lot of it, I think, will come down to the Lions' ground game. When you compare the passing game, the Lions have the second most passing touchdowns in the NFL, but the Eagles have allowed the second fewest. So those two could easily cancel each other out. But when it comes to the run game, the Lions have scored the 3rd most rushing touchdowns, while the Eagles have allowed the 6th most. So when you've got guys like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs on the ground, I think they will gradually wear down this Eagles team and power pass them through into the end zone. I don't hate the Eagles in this spot either, but I just have to trust what I've been seeing on the field, and that's that Detroit knows how to move the chains, knows how to move the ball, and Philadelphia's found it a hell of a lot tougher. Lincoln Financial Field is one of the toughest places to go into, especially in a primetime game, but I have faith that Jared Goff and, more importantly, Montgomery and Gibbs will be able to score more points than the Eagles. So give me the Lions plus 2.5 just in case it does come down to 1 or 2 points in the Eagles' favor.
Yeah, and another key thing going into this game that I'll be watching is the Lane Johnson status. Obviously, he was in and out against the Packers this past week with an injury. So if he's fully fit, ready to go, I feel even better about this Eagles team. But I do think it'll be close, and I think it's going to come down to a field goal, like you're saying.
Sinking our teeth in now to our Punt Team Big Game Treble, where we give our top picks for each of the big 3 games on Sunday to hopefully deliver you a nice little payout. So, Luke, why don't you kick us off with your pick for Commanders versus Dolphins?
Yeah, we're starting in Spain, and I am just backing the Dolphins to win that game. So, as we said earlier, Washington has lost 5 straight games, and they failed to cover in those 5 games, with 4 of those defeats coming by more than 20 points. Also, the favorites have excelled in international games. They're 40-14-1 straight up. Obviously, the Colts continued that streak last week in overtime against the Falcons in Berlin. And then the final bit with international games, when we have 2 teams, both under 500, straight up facing off, the favorite is 10-5 against the spread, covering the spread by 5 points per game. So we'll keep the spread out of it, but I do think Miami will get the job done and just beat the Commanders in Spain this Sunday.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. And like you, I'm going to keep things simple. I'm going with the Bills just to win against the Buccaneers. So I also want to take the spread out of the equation, just taking Buffalo to beat Tampa Bay straight up. And we've said it already, but the Bills were humiliated by the Dolphins last week. But Josh Allen is so good at bouncing back and reminding teams just how good this Buffalo team can be. The last time we saw them lose, we saw them come out and decimate the Panthers 40-9. And then they followed that up by beating the Chiefs by 7. Not only that, they're playing at home where they're 4-1, so the Bills Mafia should be out in force in this one to help power their team home. But then when you flip it, like, how high I've been on this Buccaneers team, but they're only 3-3 in their last 6, and only two of their 6 wins this season have been by more than 3 points. So they've really been under-delivering from what was expected of them this season. So Bills to beat the Bucs, I think it should be pretty straightforward, and I'm happy to go with that for the second leg. But why don't you bring us home with the Chiefs versus Broncos game?
Yeah, and the third game, hopefully we're entering this one off of 2 wins, and I, for one, don't love watching the game when I'm rooting for an under. So this one, maybe you can fall asleep in the second half, and I'm taking the Broncos Chiefs under 44.5. The under has been a cash cow for Bo Nix since 2025 turned into the calendar, as it's now 9-3 over the Broncos' last 12 games. Not only that, but the total has gone under in 4 of Denver's last 5 meetings against Kansas City, and in their last 10 meetings, they've combined for an average of just 42 points per game. And finally, I know a lot's been talked about this Kansas City offense, but their defense is playing at an elite level, especially coming off a bye where they can scheme for Bo Nix on extra time. But the real reason the Broncos have done well this season is because of their defense. They're just getting pressure on the quarterback. No one's converting on third downs. So I think when everything's said and done, this will be a tight game that'll come down to the fourth quarter. but I will just back the under 44.5 in Denver this Sunday.
So there you go, the Punt Team's big game treble for this Sunday. We've got the Dolphins to win, the Bills to win, and the Chiefs-Broncos game to go under 44.5. That pays at around 7-2. Now time for the Punt Team player prop double, where we sink our teeth into mine and Luke's best player prop bets of the NFL Week 11 slate. And I'm actually looking at the Bucs-Bills game, and I'm going with Rachaad White over 36.5 rushing yards at 10-11. So White has struggled to be effective in Bucky Irving's absence for the Bucs, but I think he can deliver against this very modest line. Irving is trending towards being ruled out for this game. That's the indication given by Todd Bowles. But even if he does suit up, I actually think that White should be able to go over this number. The Bills have allowed the most yards per carry in the NFL at 5.5. So if that rings true here, then White should be able to go over this number in only 6 to 8 carries. It should also be noted that the Bills have allowed the second most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. So I think that the Bucs are really going to focus in on their ground game for this one as a way of beating the Bills, not only to keep the Bills offense off the field as they come into this game as 5.5-point underdogs, but also it seems to be a real blind spot for this Bills defense. But more than anything, White's actually had at least 35 rushing yards in each of the 5 games that Irving has been injured. So if Irving is ruled out, then we really are getting a great number here for considering that White has hit this in 5 straight games and is now facing a team that is joint worst against the run in the entire NFL. Sean Tucker did have a bit of an impact for the Patriots last week, but a lot of that was down to a big 18-yard run he had in the fourth quarter to distort his stats. White is still the main running back in Tampa while Bucky Irving's out. So, yeah, give me Rachaad White over 36.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a play this Sunday. And the way I'm actually going is to prime time in that Eagles-Lions game. We talked about it a little bit in that preview, but I am expecting a big bounce-back game from A.J. Brown. And I'm taking his over 4.5 receptions at 6-4. So a little plus money here in this one. Now, there's no denying that Philly's offense was brutal last week. Jalen Hurts threw for just 183 yards, and as we said, Brown was basically invisible. He had just 2 catches on 3 targets. But the thing with Brown is that when he's invisible, you will know about it, and Jalen Hurts will be hearing about it all week. He has never stayed quiet in 2 straight games. This was only the 7th time in 55 games with the Eagles that he's seen fewer than 5 targets. And in the 6 other follow-up games, he's averaging 8.7 targets, 5.5 receptions, and 77 yards with at least 5 catches every single time. The volume always bounces back. You know he won't like not getting the ball for 2 weeks in a row, so he's going to be in Hurts' ear at practice. And I think the matchup really sets up perfectly. The Lions' run defense, I think, is very strong, even if the underlying numbers haven't said that. But the secondary has actually been torched all year. They're allowing the 6th most fantasy points to wideouts. They've given up nearly 11 receptions and 150 yards per game to wide receivers. We've already seen Rome Odunze, Justin Jefferson, and Rashad Bateman cook the secondary. So I do think it's a great bounce back spot for Brown. Also, he's had 5 catches or more in 17 of his 27 career home games for the Eagles. And I expect him to make some noise early under the lights at the Link. So give me A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions in an easy bounce back spot against this Lions secondary.
Love that price at 6-4. Absolutely love it. So there you go. The Punt Team player prop double. We've got Rachaad White over 36.5 rushing yards and A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions. That comes in at around 3.77 to 1. Best of luck. Now it's time to shoot for the moon, shoot for the stars. We're going with the Punt Team's Moneyline ACCA, where we're hoping to nail the winner of all 13 games this Sunday. Me and Luke haven't done too bad over the first 2 weeks of doing this, but fingers crossed that third time's a charm. So with that in mind, Luke, I'm going to kickstart things with you. So Let's go. Commanders or Dolphins?
Taking the Dolphins in that one.
Panthers, Falcons?
Give me the Falcons.
Bears or Vikings?
Vikings.
Bengals or Steelers?
Pittsburgh. Give me the Steelers.
Packers or Giants?
Take the Packers.
Texans or Titans?
Davis Mills Mania or CJ Stroud. I'm taking the Texans.
And rounding off your portion, Chargers or Jags?
This one's tough, but I'll take the Chargers. All right, now I'll pass it over to you. Buccaneers or the Bills?
Got to be the Bills.
Okay, give me the Seahawks Rams.
Going out on a limb here, taking the Seahawks.
Wow. All right. 49ers Cardinals.
49ers.
Ravens Browns.
Lamar Jackson, baby. Got to be the Ravens.
Chiefs Broncos.
Chiefs.
Now Lions Eagles.
It's a tough one. I'm going to go with the Lions.
Wow.
So there you go. 13 games, 13 picks. Comes in at around 300 to 1. Fingers crossed the magic can happen. Best of luck. And now rounding off today's show, we're getting into the Punt Team's best bets of the week, where myself and Luke give you our best bets of the entire NFL Week 11 slate. It was 2 winners for us last week. I picked the Bears minus 3.5, and they just about got the job done against those pesky Giants. Luke, it was a bit more straightforward for you. Ravens minus 3.5, also a winner. So at the moment, the standings are that I lead Luke 5-4 in this season's standings, but obviously, Luke's right on my heels, so who knows what could happen here. Luke, tell me, what's your best bet of NFL Week 11?
So for this week, I am rolling with the Pittsburgh Steelers minus 5.5 at 10-11. I know that might give you pause after the way that offense looked last week, but Mike Tomlin has really owned the matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's 27-11 straight up and 25-12-1 against the spread versus Cincinnati in his career. Now, they already played earlier this year as the Steelers dropped one to the Bengals earlier this season, and Joe Flacco just went berserk. But get this, since he's only beaten Pittsburgh twice in the same season once since 2009, and yeah, that was with Joe Burrow at quarterback. So I'm sure people saw the news of Burrow coming back to practice this week, but he will not be starting this week. And even with the Bengals coming off a bye, they haven't been that good under Zach Taylor. They're just 4-4 off a bye straight up and against the spread. But against AFC North teams off a bye, they're just 1-4 ATS and winless as underdogs. They've been outscored 85-23 in those 5 games. And on any extended rest, Taylor is just 2-6 against the spread without Burrow as the coach of the Bengals. The last bit is just the Cincinnati defense. I don't know if you can say anything positive about it. They've given up 500-plus yards 3 times already this year and are allowing 426 yards per game, which is the second worst in Super Bowl era history. So this Bengals defense is just god-awful. They've allowed 27 points in 8 straight games, which is the second longest streak ever. They could tie that this week if Pittsburgh puts up 27 again. And meanwhile, I know the Pittsburgh offense didn't look good last week, but Aaron Rodgers has been great in a bounce-back spot. After throwing under 200 yards, he's 41, 23-2 against the spread in the next game. I expect him to find his rhythm here. The Ravens are breathing down the Steelers' neck in the AFC North. They cannot afford to drop another one. So I love Pittsburgh minus 5.5 this weekend against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that pick, especially with what we've seen from the Bengals over their last 2 games, that game against the Jets and then the Bears. Defense is woeful right now. So, yeah, big fan of that pick. But I'm going with the offensive juggernaut that I keep alluding to throughout the show. I'm going with the Seahawks plus 3 against the LA Rams. Now, I said at the start of the show how much I'm in love with this Seahawks team right now, and it all stems from their passing game. They've had the most passing yards per attempt this season at 9.8, and that's almost a full yard more than the second-place Pats in that category. Sam Darnold's rapport with Jackson Smith and Jigma is out of this world, and I expect it to be on full display in this game against the Rams. Admittedly, LA has the most passing touchdowns in the NFL, 4 more than the second-place Lions, so we really could see plenty of fireworks in this one, and I'm actually surprised by the modest total that's been assigned to it. But that said, I'm still leaning towards the Seahawks catching a field goal in this one. Big portion of that is also that they've actually won 11 of their last 12 road games dating back to last season, and is currently 10 in a row. So this Seahawks team travels unbelievably well. I have no fear about them going down to LA at SoFi Stadium, where let's be real, there's probably going to be more Seahawks fans there than the Rams fans for this game. So I think the Seahawks are going to have that edge as well. But then factoring in also, you've got there are a lot of different ways that this Seattle offense can beat you. I've talked about the passing game, but even on the ground, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, have helped contribute to the Seahawks having the sixth most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. I feel like every time I'm watching a Seahawks game, if I look away for a second, I turn back, I feel like Zach Charbonnet's in the end zone. He has been so consistent, so efficient with not having that many carries, but doing a lot with them. So I'm a big fan of that pairing as well. I do think this will be a very close game, but I just really like Seattle in this spot. They know that they have a great chance to prove their Super Bowl credentials here. Both teams are fighting it out. Both teams won for their last 4 games. Both teams are fighting it out to win the NFC West. I think Seattle's going to be highly motivated for this game. We know they travel well. They might not win, but I think giving them a field goal is more than enough. So I'm happy to take the Seahawks +3 at 10-11. So there you go. I'm going Seahawks +3 at 10-11. We've got Luke taking the Steelers -5.5 at 10-11. Make sure you comment on this video to let us know whether you agree with our best bets, whether you're going to be following or fading them, and also let us know your best bets for NFL Week 11.